This week I've asked you to take a look at the geometry eToolkit that's included with the digital textbook. So I thought I would just do a quick run through of how to get there and then a couple of what the tools are to help you get started if you're feeling confused or don't understand what to do with that. So once we launch the textbook from Canvas, we're going to go to ebook, just like we do to look at lessons. But instead of navigating through the book, we're going to go down to the bottom to this little hammer in the green square that says Tools. We're going to click on that hammer, and it takes us to the only tool associated here, which is the Geometry HTML eToolkit. If we click on that, you probably want to be on a computer or a Chromebook to work in this. I doubt it would be very effective on a phone, but you're welcome to try it. But at least a tablet, if not an actual computer, would probably be best. So we have a list of items over on the left that we can use here, and I've only used this a little, so I'm not super familiar with everything yet, which is part of why I want you to play around with it yourself and see what there is. But I'll show you the things I've found so far. So if we go to drawing, we have tools. We can move objects, we can draw with a pencil, we can draw text, or we can draw lines. So for the purposes here, I'm going to draw a line. And then in line mode, we can pick with endpoints, we can make array, we can make arrows to make an infinite line, or we can make polygons. So here I'm going to make a line segment, and you just click and drag or tap and drag. It'll put one endpoint where you started, and then wherever you drag to is going to place the second endpoint. Then I can use move if I need to move that object. So I can also change the angle of it, just like most things in slides or any kind of Google Docs. I can move and rotate with this tool. So line, you can change colors, you can make it more transparent, but the main thing here is just being able to draw that object. The next tool we have is one called a compass. We have this thing that is basically a tool that can draw circles. So it has one pointy end that you stab into the paper, or just basically put against the desk, and then a pencil on the other end that spins around in a circle. So the things we can do with it are choose where that end point goes, like I could put it there for reference. We can also grab this leg here and change the radius of the circle that we're drawing. So if I bring it in closer, I'm going to draw a smaller circle. If I bring it out further, I'll draw a bigger circle. To actually draw, you click on the pencil. So notice the hand icon is the same. So I want this icon to move it, so the little cross to move it, and then the hand on the leg here extends the radius, and then a hand on the pencil actually lets you draw an arc. So I can draw an arc there by clicking and dragging on the pencil, and if I want, I can go all the way around and make a full circle of that radius. If I bring the radius out further, I can draw a different circle. So a compass is a fundamental tool in geometric constructions, which we'll talk about as we go forward a little bit. But basically, we can do a fair number of interesting drawing things in geometry with only this tool and a straight edge to let us draw straight lines. So notice that this tool doesn't have any measurement, right? This tool doesn't tell us the angle, the radius of the circle. We can match another thing. So I can adjust this to match like to match the length of this line segment. So then if I wanted to make a circle with that radius somewhere else, I could lock the compass. That's what this little dial at the top does on a physical compass. It's supposed to like lock in this radius, and then I could take it somewhere and draw a radius equal to the length of that line segment. So when we draw with a compass, we call these things construction lines. And typically on a paper, we try to draw them kind of as faint lines that aren't part of the actual shape. Here, what we could do is we can change the transparency to make them partially transparent as construction lines, or we can change the color and say our construction lines are going to be purple. So that's a way of differentiating like object lines or shape lines from construction lines, is to use these tools down here to change the properties. It also does have a lock radius button, but that's kind of unnecessary because as long as we don't grab this leg here, we just drag it around, the radius is always locked. So on a physical compass, this this idea is super important. It also has a quick circle, so if I change my radius and I want to draw a circle wherever, with the point at the center, I can hit this button, and it draws the full circle without actually dragging it around. A lot of times with a compass, we don't want the full circle, we want just like an arc as a reference for length, but here, we can do whatever. So our next tool is called a protractor. A protractor is a tool for measuring angles. So unlike a compass, which has no measurement, this is a measuring tool, more like a ruler. So you're probably familiar with rulers. Let's add a ruler. So ruler is just measures length, right? It measures distance in inches or millimeters or centimeters. I can actually change my ruler here. That's why I didn't pop in right away. I can make it in smaller increments. I can make it in metric, so I can make it kind of whatever ruler I want. You can also flip it around with this button here if you need to measure the other way. But a ruler is a pretty simple basic measuring tool. In fact, our protractor has a ruler built in along the bottom. It has a 5-inch ruler that we can use to measure short distances. Normally, rulers are more like 12 inches long, and you can measure larger or longer objects with them. So the way a protractor works, you see this little dot in the middle. There's like a crosshairs going through it at the 3-inch mark, and we're going to place that over an end point where we want to draw an angle. So if I place that circle over here, and then I draw and make a dot, so I'll just use my pencil to make a dot at, say, 100 degrees, right here, then I can either use the protractor or any kind of straight edge in order to draw an angle. So with a real protractor, what I would do, actually, does it have a rotate? Yeah. So, that's not even the right thing. Let's delete some of this stuff. Okay, so I would click on the protractor and I would rotate it. So physically on a desk, I would leave the little hole there, the center point, right on my end point and rotate the protractor around until it reaches that dot. And then I would use this as a straight edge between the end point and that dot to draw my line. So then I would grab a pencil or a line tool, and I would draw a line from there through that point, and that's going to give me this angle here will be the 100 degrees that I measured. I think this protractor actually probably has better tools for doing what I just did. Let's see. So it has this red line. So let's start with a new line segment. Let's make a green line over here. So if I want to make an angle with my protractor, I'm going to place it here, and I'm going to align it so that 0 degrees or 180 degrees here lines up with the green. So I may need to tilt it a little. And then I think this red dot will allow me to, so it allows me to pick an angle, and it kind of already draws that line segment for me. And now I can just go get my line tool and draw along there. So I don't actually need to make a pencil mark at the angle like I did the first time. I can just use this red line segment that's built into the protractor in order to pick my angle. Notice that the protractor can count angles either direction, so you don't have to like flip it upside down like I did with the ruler. If you look at the outer markings, they count clockwise 0 to 180. And if you look at the inner markings, they count counterclockwise 0 up to 180. So at any given point, you have a sum of 180. So right here would be 30 degrees, but then if you counted it from the left, it would be at 150 degrees. So protractors generally will have 2 scales, and it's important that you pay attention to what your 0 is. Is your 0 on the right or the left? So if I had an endpoint on the right side instead of the left, I would align the 0 over here, and then my angles I'd be looking at are counting around the outside, not the inside. So if I went to here, this is 60 degrees, not 120 degrees. And you can pretty easily see that by the fact that this is an acute angle, not an obtuse angle. So those are the three main tools I wanted to show you. There's other stuff in here, like rulers and stopwatches and timers. But these are the three main things I want you to get familiar with, are just how to draw basic line segments, how to use the compass, and how to use the protractor. If you have those three things down, then that pretty much is going to set you up to understand a lot of the things we're going to do with constructions.